Good morning, Dr. George. Gavin, pleasure to see you. How are you today?
Hi, Jeanette. Very good. Lovely to be here with you today.
Well, thank you. I always love to chat with you. So I do want to start it off by learning a little bit more about you and Puregene. So can you tell me a bit about what made you grow great cannabis?
Absolutely. It's been a bit of a long road to get here. I did my PhD in South Africa, where I'm from, before moving over to Switzerland to the ETH, which is a fantastic university on this side. Where I was at the time busy developing a suite of agricultural technologies with my co-founder, Dr. Michael Ruckel, and his professor, Professor Bruno Studer. And we were looking to roll these agricultural technologies out to the market to fix some of the issues we saw in agriculture more broadly. But then we met Stephen Sen, who had developed a really fantastic CBD cannabis company here in Switzerland, which was retailing all over the place, but they had problems, and we believed that we could solve them. So, and while we were solving those problems, we birthed Puregene, and it's really been a wild ride from that point. So I think one of the problems that we found is that there was this incredible diversity in this plant species, and this was having impacts on production. So we needed to really understand the plant so we could take it to real scale production.
Well, that's interesting because, we've all worked in plant breeding and plant sourcing. How does this different from traditional plant breeding that we've always been doing in the cannabis space?
Oh, it's night and day. We have taken a completely different approach to the rest of the cannabis industry. The cannabis industry has really focused on art form breeding and has done it incredibly successfully. It's been one of the most successful non-industrial plant breeding programs that mankind has ever embarked on, genuinely. However, breeding in agriculture is very different. It's very data-driven, and this is where we came in. So we really had to start from scratch in terms of scientific approaches to plant breeding. And we started this by developing our immense pangenomic reference sequence, so 75 genomes, all encompassed in a pangenome. And we built our entire program on functionalizing that genome, identifying traits that are encoded by those genomes and tens of thousands of others that we've resequenced in the process to create building blocks that we can create the varieties of the future out of.
Okay, that sounds really interesting and intriguing. So what prompted you to go to these steps? And my question is, how does that benefit me as a producer of cannabis or hemp?
Right. I mean, that's an excellent question. What we see in kind of general classical breeding is that the diversity can be great if you are pheno hunting, but it can be a real impediment if you want to create industrially relevant varieties. Because industry needs to produce at scale. It needs to produce at a high degree of stability, often for legal reasons, around the world. And you have to produce at high quality because the consumers will reject everything else. So we've really had to go back to the basics with our program and be able to control as many traits as possible in our breeding program to create these high performance varieties that can be used in industrial production.
So that's exciting because you mentioned it being kind of an art form, previous breeding, which it is. And there's some amazing breeders that have gotten great strains.
Amazing.
But the problem is now we need stability, consistency. Consumers want a stable strain, stable genetics. And also, as you mentioned, the legality in certain parts of the world. As you know, I've worked in Canada extensively, but now working in Mexico. And there'll be requirements there on THC or CBD content or other cannabinoids. So can you actually manage to control those cannabinoids so that make sure that I'm ensuring that I'm compliant with the local registrations?
Absolutely. And this is really what our program was designed to do from the beginning. So what we do is we not only generate huge amounts of data about the individual traits of the plant. I mean, that's one part, but we also create these extensive and very detailed structured populations These populations are created out of grandparents and great-grandparents of the plants that go into production, where we understand them at the really most detailed level you possibly can with the technologies available. And we trace all of that through generations and map out how these plants respond in various environments around the world, be it indoor, outdoor, greenhouse. And we use all of that data and all of that understanding to be able to predict extremely accurately how a plant will perform in its new environment. And that gives you the comfort to know that these plants are going to perform at the level where you expect them to perform every time.
That's amazing. And then we've always seen some, we'll call it genetic drift or whatever term you want to use on
Right.
our plants, because we have a great plant that we love who's doing well. And then we see over successive cloning periods or new mothers, they're just not as vigorous as they were. Can you do anything to address that?
Absolutely. And really, again, this is one of the key elements of our program, or where our program can help. Like I said, because we understand the whole lineage of the plant and how it got there, we can finally select out varieties which are incredibly stable. But then to reselect those varieties is one very easy step. Once you understand all of the genomes and all of the phenotypes of that plant, you have the populations that led up to that variety, we can always recreate it. But that's a worst case scenario for us. What we like to do is really make sure that the varieties we produce are kept clean, they're propagated correctly, and that they are bred so that they can be put into production systems such as yours without this problem of dudding out, as it's called in the industry.
Yes, it is. So one of the challenges we have here in Canada, let's say indoors or even outdoors, is powdery mildew, other things like that, or botrytis. Whereas growing in a much more arid conditions, such as Western Mexico, I'll have other challenges there. Can you create plants that are designed for those environments?
Absolutely. So let me tell you how, because saying yes doesn't mean anything until you understand how we do it. What we do is, because we have these structured populations that we can put into place, we know exactly how they perform in all of the environments that we've tested them in. But they will perform differently in your environment. Some will do better, some will do worse. But those plants that we put into your environment effectively act as a sensor for us. By measuring how they perform in your environment, that information comes back to us and allows us to make very good decisions about what to do next to create the plants that you need. And you're talking about pathogens and I'm talking about environment, but for us, it's the same. For us, environment is not just the weather, it's how the plants are handled. What is the production system? What is the agronomy? What is the pathogen load? All of these things are detected by the populations that we put in place and allow us to make the right decisions to get the plants that are more productive in your environment.
This sounds so game-changing and innovative in the industry. So is this GMO?
No, that's the beauty of it. What we do is we leverage the natural sexual reproduction process of plants when we cross them and when we create these populations. The technology comes in below and above that. So on the discovery side, I like to think of that as below. We're identifying all of the traits and all of the genomes of all of the plants that we resequence. And those building blocks go into the sexual reproduction process. Then afterwards, we track all of those traits in the development of new varieties. And we do this in a way where we're actually breeding ahead of having a specific breeding goal. So by the time you tell us exactly what you want in terms of environment, agronomy, chemotype, we're already 3 generations, sometimes 4 generations closer to your goal than if we were to start from scratch. And then we do some light variety development and maybe 1 or 2 more crosses to get it kind of really optimized for your system.
Sounds so much better than my traditional pheno hunting and going through and various growths. And even if we do predictive testing on cannabinoids. We still don't know it. And oh, this sounds so much easier. So have you validated all this methodologies or your processes?
Absolutely. So our company has been in existence for about 4 years now. And we went through an extensive period of deep research into the plant. This is the trait discovery program and really understanding the genomes. Then more recently, we started deploying these breeding programs in various areas around the world. So one of the highlight examples for me is our Swiss breeding program, which happens in a unique environment in a valley in Switzerland, where we had a partner who was producing low THC cannabis, and the quality was outdoor quality. Then through our program, we were able to breed up really beautiful, high quality flowers that can be produced outdoor. And ultimately, the impact on the sales price was more than 75% increase in the final sale price of the product. So that's really the power of our program, where we wanted to impact.
Oh my gosh. So how do you apply this knowledge? And I guess my real question is, what is the process of me as a producer, whether it be in Canada or Mexico or somewhere else in the world? When would I see a benefit from working with Puregene? How long would it take? And what is the process?
Another great question, because there's several benefits our partners have. Firstly, straight out of the gate, if you have production running, then you effectively have 15 PhDs working for you. They can come and look at what your production system is, what the challenges are, and give you initial advice. Of course, that's only step one, because during this consultation period, we understand the challenges in your environment, and we start to understand what it is you want, what are your desires, where do you want to be in the future? What are those goals? And we put those down and we establish the breeding program. And then within a year, we can start to yield the results that you'll be looking for. And these are in terms of not only just stability and having high quality material, but changing over chemotypes, making sure that these plants stay legal, making sure that they're less responsive to harsh environments so that you get a stable product out at the end of the day. And then from there, the sky's the limit. We can carry on going and keep getting you more and more of whatever it is that you desire out of your production.
This is game changing. And I know there's been a lot of creative breeding going on, but this is really taking that art and making it a science. And again, at scale, we need that consistency for our consumers, for our products, for whatever the distribution channels are going forward. I am so excited about what Puregene is doing. Am I allowed to come and visit you in Switzerland?
Jeanette, you are always welcome. And I should say that this is a great time of year. I think if you could take the time to come over here and walk through our fields where we do a lot of our discovery, you would find every phenotype, every plant structure, every chemotype. It's a bit like walking through a candy store, and you will be absolutely fascinated. We'd love to have you.
I would love that. I'd love to meet some of your PhDs and scientists and learn a little more about your labs and your processes, because this is intriguing and I think game changing for the industry. Thank you, Gavin, so much for your time. My mind is swirling. I have a lot of reading to do and learning so that I understand enough when I come to Switzerland. But
or don't, and just come and learn from our PhDs. They're the best source.
That is amazing. I look forward to it. I'm going to look up some flights. Thank you. I hope you have a fantastic day growing great cannabis.
Thanks very much. And great to talk to you, Jeanette.